I hope it doesn't translate through on the recording, but you were getting kind of fuzzy there.
Uh-oh. I hope it doesn't. It might not, because the thing that you hear me through is not the thing that I record audio on.
Yeah.
So, hopefully
fine. Wait. The thing that I hear you through is not what you're recording on. What do you mean? You have two microphones set up or something?
Is it like it's like a riddle? Like I want you to like have to figure it out. Like
that's what it feels.
What has 3 arms and 2 eyes but cannot be seen in the night?
Human, got it. Human.
No, it's so Discord does not work with my headset mic for some reason.
Okay.
Nor does it work. Well, it works okay with the freestanding mic, which is what I'm using. But basically, just to keep from switching it back and forth, I just leave my Discord mic on the webcam mic. And then when I plug in to like do the podcast, though, my webcam mic is not the mic I use to record to OBS. It's my freestanding mic. So I'm recording audio on my freestanding mic, but you're hearing me through the mic on my webcam.
So basically, in effect, and that's I'm starting to understand your setup now about how the audio happens. So then, yeah, you're literally just recording what you are saying, essentially.
I am actually recording what you are saying now too, as well, though. The problem is I have to have a separate. I have to have a separate thing. Even if I was using the webcam mic, I have to use a separate, like a separate recording. It's not a recording device, but a separate option on OBS. So, like on OBS, there's like 6 slots for how it records audio, and one of them is default slot, and it allows you to record just straight off the PC, which is what I use for recording you. It's the best because I don't get an echo that way. But the problem is that does not work for streaming. When I'm streaming, I have to have the headset on, and I run everything through the headset. So when the headset's on and I'm streaming, it is both recording my mic audio through my headset. It is also recording any game audio through the headphones on my headset. And it's also recording anybody else's talking through my headset. But if I leave the audio on that I use to record you during the podcast, it gets fucked up because it records the extra podcast over that, and it makes it unhearable. So I have to turn that off for streaming. And that's what happens is I stream, and then I forget to turn on the one that I need to turn on for you. And boom. Bada boom, we're in the situation that we were in. So you could actually hear you on the recording. It was just so quiet.
Yeah. And
if I turned it up, you'd turn me up too, is the problem. So then you would have had like, hey, I'm Zach, Old Man Gaming, and I'm Neil, a Tiny Wizard.
Yeah.
Like it would have been awful. So I just decided better to not do it.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and for whatever reason, you have decided to tune into another horrible gaming podcast. Welcome. We welcome you, and by we, I am not alone, nor am I ever. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. a Tiny Wizard.
So, everybody out there, before we get into anything, I do have a little apology. I am sorry about last week and the podcast. We had some audio, but unfortunately only recorded one half of it, and that was my fault. So I am sorry that we missed a whole episode of podcast. Sorry to everybody out there looking, waiting to see it. But we're back this week. We're ready to do it again the right way. Neil's with me. But before we do, we got to do some credits. We got to shout some people out. And that is, number one, if you are watching this on YouTube, behind the fancy timestamps, you're going to see some fancy graphics. Those are provided by Mr. Mark Bell. He makes all the original pictures here on OMG, and we thank him for that. Slight plug, if you go back, I think 2 weeks at this point, maybe 1 week, you can see a stream where I did a stream with Mark. He actually designed a mod for Tabletop Simulator, which you can get on Steam for about the cost of a cup of coffee. And yeah, it's a miniature giant robot fighting thing. We played for about 2 hours. It was a ton of fun. Go check that out if you want to see some more Mark Bell. Then, of course, my brother, Nick Van Sliders, the man who makes the music, made the theme song for this show and all of the shows here at OMG, and we thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first segment, possibly our most favorite segment, and definitely our most important segment. That's Fanteraction. That's where us, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments in all the places that we find them. We answer your questions. We reference things. It's fun. It's fun for everybody involved, I would have to say. So, yeah. Right off the bat, let's get into it. There was one vote. It was for Lawyer Up, which made me very sad because Unique Noir was a true passion project for me. But, Neil, you get the win, and that is off Kev Too Talls. I really like Neil's game this week, Smiley Face. So you are 17-14, man. You're pulling away. You're getting close to that big V.
What were we going to again?
So it's 52, which means that you would have to get 26 votes. Now votes, okay. 26 wins. 26 weekly wins is how you win the round, and then we restart.
Okay.
So you're at 17. You're not that far off. You're about 10 off. 10 wins off, about. Give or take.
Interesting. Well, I'm having a run now, but if the beginning of this taught me anything, it's that shit can change real fast.
I'm hoping to take it back today. I'm not going to lie. I'm really hoping to take it back. I've got a really, really good, really crazy pitch for
I don't know,
what you threw out there. So
mine, yeah, I thought long and hard about mine. Long and hard.
Okay, so other than that, let's get into the actual comments. First, we got a new commenter, Xanders. The A is a 4. I don't think we know Xanders. So Xanders, thank you for listening. And he says, honestly, clean, hard work, thumbs up. So I'm going to assume that that's not sarcastic. He really liked our podcast. And in that case, thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. Please keep watching. Hopefully we keep doing a good job. Then Jason chimed in. My COL comment, that's cost of living comment, was not a defense. It was a justification in the other direction. That dude is in a disconnect with real people, and many of us are not in a position where buying $60 full price games often just ain't an option. So he's at a position where he can have us buying the games at a discount or not buying them at all. So I do want to quickly just apologize to Jason. I did this on the show you never heard, so I'm going to do it again. Jason had posted a bunch of stuff. This is all in reference to Days Gone fat asshole producer talking about how people should buy his game at full price if they wanted a sequel, even though his game was a piece of shit. And Jason had put out there some cost of life stuff, saying that like $60 in California is nothing, whereas $60 in Ohio is huge, stuff like that. And I had just commented on that, and I think some of my comments maybe sounded like I was saying Jason was defending him. I did not mean that at all, buddy. I know you weren't defending him. I was merely saying I don't think it. I was merely agreeing with you that it should not matter where you're from or what the amount is. If you want $60 for your game, you should make a full price, a good game. But I do want to say, Jason, I'm sorry if it all in any way, shape, or form sounded like I was kind of like coming at you for saying that. That was not my intent. Anything to add to that, Neil?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember when that episode even went up.
Well, that was 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically what it was like he had put up some cost of living stuff and pointed out cost of living.
Yeah,
I had said cost of living doesn't matter. $60 is $60, even if it's like easy for Californians and not easy for other people, it shouldn't matter to this idiot. And I think some of my comments sounded like I was saying that I was arguing with Jason because Jason was defending him. I didn't mean it to sound that way. I don't think Jason was defending him at all. He was just pointing some stuff out, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Then he said, yes, bureaucracy is dumb beyond belief. I miss the days where you could walk into a store and the owner would be behind the counter or at least in the office in the back. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that, but part of me is very happy that I can buy things online. It's one of those things where, like, I wish having the thing I like didn't mean that the other thing went away, I think.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like theaters. Like, I like that I can watch movies now at home. I don't have to go to a theater to watch new movies. But at the same time, it kind of kills theaters, and I don't want it to kill theaters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We actually, a little while ago, went to go see the Demon Slayer movie in the theater. And it was a very strange experience being in a theater since everything, you know, with COVID and everything's gone on.
Right.
But it's still, you can tell that, like, the atmosphere has completely changed, and it's not just because, you know, the world's getting back to normal sort of situation.
Right.
And that whole idea can be applied for anything. It can be applied to, you know, like you had said, like walking into a store to buy a thing or buying it offline or buying something digitally. You know, a shift has been made, especially over the course of this past year. Everybody's been buying digital more so. So those people who have already started to go digital are going to be hard-pressed to start going back after that habit's been developed.
Well, and that's one of the, yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that, like, I like the idea of a store with a manager in the back that you can just talk to. I don't want that to go away, but at the same time, I really like things just delivered to my house when I order them and press a button. So, like, it's kind of one of those catch-22s where, like, I have to give up the one thing or the other, and it's annoying. Like, I don't like the idea that the thing that I like, me getting the thing I like, costs anybody the thing they like. It's unfortunate, I think. Yeah. And then C-Town 1980 said, how dare you gentlemen compare a spineless blob of flesh to a dildo? Dildos provide a service and pleasure to some people, so good day, sir. Referring specifically to Neil calling Bobby Kotick a human dildo, which I found heavily entertaining. And I will say, I don't know that I want to be compared to a dildo. I know dildos can give people some smiles, but I don't necessarily want to be one.
Some smiles. Of all of the things to say.
I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I don't necessarily want to be compared to it, though.
I mean, I don't know if a smile is what people get, but
I think they do. I mean, it depends. Depends on how the dildo's used. Directly, as Jason points out, that it also works as a weapon. I guess that's not providing any smiles whatsoever. All right, so that's fan traction. That's all the fan tractions we have, man.
Alrighty.
Shall we move on to our first talking point?
Sure.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to our first talking point, ladies and gentlemen, and it's really aggravating. It's really annoying because not only am I proved wrong, but I'm proved wrong in one of the worst ways where it doesn't help anybody out there. It hurts the gaming industry. So who was the guy who pointed this out? What was his name there, Neil? I didn't catch it.
His name is Jeff Grubb.
Of course, his name's got to be Grubb. Jesus Christ. So Jeff Grubb, who is with Bethesda, I believe.
He works with Xbox.
Okay.
I believe. I only have half of this open. I have the actual Twitter thing open. I'm trying to see what his actual job
You don't have to
is.
see his job.
I'm
Go ahead
glad
and
we're
read
doing
Twitter.
this.
Yeah.
I'm extra glad that we're doing this like on everything. He's associated with either Bethesda or
Right.
Microsoft in some way.
Right.
He's been on at E3 if I remember correctly.
Right.
So he's like a guy.
Okay. So go ahead and say what he announced.
All right. Well, there's a lot of rumors floating around, and somebody on Twitter just added him directly. The one I'm seeing right here. I had a bunch of messages and super chats about Starfield today where people were saying that at Jeff Grubb said that it wasn't exclusive or whatever. So I figured I'd tweet this out and have Jeff clear the air, since it seems to be what he says gets twisted by people. And his direct response was, Starfield is exclusive to Xbox and PC, period. This is me confirming that. And then a following tweet also says, like, go write the story. So,
Okay.
very, very much so, Starfield is going to be an exclusive.
Okay. All right. You want me to go first? You got some things you want to say, or?
Well, your voice is cracking already from the yelling that I feel like you're about to do. So, you know what? Just go on ahead.
Okay, I will. This is fucking stupid. And I'm going to preface this by saying I have been accused in the past of being an Xbox fanboy. I think this segment right here is going to put that to bed forever. Xbox should not have any exclusives, nor should PlayStation, nor should Nintendo. Exclusives should not exist in gaming, period. And I thought that Xbox had finally come to understand that the real battle for market share is in the software, not in the games. Well, not the I mean, games are software, but not in the games, in the actual features and services that you present to people. But I'm wrong. They're gonna go down the same road and try and buy a monopoly and make everything exclusive and force people to buy their systems. Yada yada yada. This is fucking stupid. It hurts gaming. It takes us a step back. It's just. Stop keeping people from playing your game. You have Games Pass. People will come there for Games Pass. And you lose money. This is common sense. You lose money when you take it away from other consoles. When you don't put it on other consoles, you are effectively cutting off a third or a half, 2/3 of your revenue stream. You make it yourself unable to get the thing. Man, I'm running out of words already. It's very frustrating. I don't understand why there's a bunch of people sitting around a table and looking at all their metrics and looking at all that Games Pass has done for them and every Twitter thing that gamers say, and they say that this is a good idea. It's not. The only thing that this is going to make happy is the halfway militant Xbox fans who can finally say, yeah, fuck you, PlayStation. But it's not going to help you financially because you won't make the money that you would make off PlayStation. Hell, you're not going to make any retail sales. This thing is going to go right into Games Pass because it's an Xbox, I guess, second-party exclusive or whatever, but all of them go right into Games Pass. So the only thing you're going to do is boost your Games Pass number, which is great. I know that's what you want, but you don't get any of the money from selling this on PlayStation. And that's just dumb. It's just dumb. I'm going to take a second. Now, you go ahead and add.
I was really hoping that you had like 30 seconds left in you because Kayla just texted me if I want food from B-dubs.
Nice. I like that you time things on my rants now. He's going to be going, I can go get a drink or some shit.
That was one of the things with my last breath when we used to do that. Like, I knew I had a solid minute to knock something out.
I'm just so sick of exclusivity and exclusives. I think it's beyond dumb at this point. And I think that anybody looking at the last, 5 years in the industry and are thinking, you know what's smart? Let's put it on one system. They shouldn't be working in games anymore, because this is just beyond ludicrous that you would, in any way, shape, or form, keep anybody from buying your game. Especially when we've now been confirmed that you've never sold a console for anything less than a loss. Every one of your consoles has been sold for a loss. We know that now. That's in the ether. That's been announced that every one of your consoles has been sold at a loss. So you're not making money off the console sales. The reason that PlayStation does the exclusive thing is they make money off their consoles. Like, that's how they have their infrastructure made, is they make money off those big hardware sales, which I think is archaic, but at the same time, that's why they put a lockdown on those. Xbox doesn't need that. Xbox is purely driven by Games Pass at this point. Series X doesn't really exist. Games Pass is your console. That's what Xbox's console is Games Pass. Like, that's period. That's what it is. So why bother with this? Why bother playing their game? And this is something that goes back to a few weeks ago when I was saying, and you know, it bothers me not that I'm wrong. It bothers me that when I made this theory back then, it wasn't just that I thought I was right. It was that, they're finally making the right moves. Like, I said, the way to win this is to stop playing their game and to play your own game, to change the way the game exists. And they had started to do that. So why now would you play the fucking game? Why would you just decide out of nowhere that we're going to do it PlayStation's way? Because you know who wins when you play PlayStation's game? PlayStation! That's who wins. And this actually helps PlayStation. It actually helps them, Neil. And that's what people don't understand. And everybody who gets excited that they've got this exclusive coming, that's what they don't understand, is exclusivity helps PlayStation. It does not help Xbox to have exclusives.
So here's, I have a general wondering, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Oh, that's a dangerous game tonight.
Oh, I know, it's a dangerous game. The most dangerous game. No, not a human. Anyways, so my wondering is, this deal that went down with Bethesda and Microsoft, we knew about Starfield a long time ago.
Yeah.
Before it was even it was officially announced. What was it, 2 years, 3 years ago, where we got that quick little splash screen thing?
It was at the same E3 where they showed us 76.
So here's my thing. Like, there had to have been development started on a PS4/PS5 version before this deal went down. I can see a world where Bethesda would have finished out the projects that they had and then gone from there. Because remember, we have Deathloop, which is Arcane, which is still Bethesda, has timed exclusivity on the PS5. So there's already a template for that.
Right.
So I'm curious as to why the move was made to make it an exclusive. Now, to play devil's advocate here for a second, the biggest complaint that had been leveraged against Microsoft is their lack of first-party exclusive stuff. Whether or not it's right for them to make the move that they made by making Starfield exclusive moving forward, that's not part of this argument. It's the fact that they needed some sort of exclusive, and they decided to make that an exclusive to say, hey guys, see, we do have, something. Like you had said, this is a game now that, my laptop certainly won't run it, but anything, like anybody who has a PC, anybody who has Game Pass is going to get it, but it's going to be exclusive, and that's a feather in Microsoft's cap in that regard. So now, they're starting to make those sort of moves. So I think to stave off people from, complaining about Microsoft just being, a Steam box, so to say, with ass. But, you make a point about when you go that route, by making things exclusive, that Microsoft wanted to get away from that sort of stuff, and they've branched out, with different, platforms, with streaming, stuff like that. So they've made those moves to branch themselves out. But like you said, the second that you start dabbling back in exclusives outside of, stuff that's hardcore, like your Halos and stuff like that, at that point, then yeah, you are undermining what you're doing, and you are playing Sony's game with the exclusives. Not that I personally mind that. I'm okay with exclusives, but it is a tired notion to some degree.
Well, and that's... I understand what you're saying. That has been the biggest complaint against Microsoft, has been their lack of first-party exclusives. And personally, I was okay with that because I kind of felt like they were like, yeah, we don't have them. Who cares? We've got Games Pass. And I felt like that's the answer. I don't feel like they're utilizing Games Pass right with exclusivity. I think the way you win a war once you have something like Games Pass is you funnel people to Games Pass that you can get, and then you sell that product somewhere else for extra revenue. The way you beat Sony is not try and make better games. The way you beat Sony is make people on Sony play your games. Like, take market share away from Sony. A perfect example is Minecraft. Minecraft is available on Sony. It is available on Nintendo Switch. And it's owned by Xbox. Anybody who buys it on Sony's PlayStation is paying Xbox. That's how you beat Sony. You make Sony a store for Xbox products. And I don't understand why I'm the only one that sees that. Like with Bethesda, with this Starfield thing, how much, yeah, they're going to make a ton of money off of it, and they're going to get a lot of people to Xbox. How much more money do you think they'd make if they were selling it for $60 on the PlayStation Store? Not to mention the fact, anybody who hates Xbox can't possibly have a problem with the fact that you're making your product. You could very easily make it exclusive to your system, but you're making it available to them for a price. Like, you can play it on yours, you just have to spend $60. It's just not being utilized. If you want to defeat PlayStation, you make PlayStation part of Microsoft. And how do you do that? You sell your games on PlayStation, because then your games get sold. You get twice the money. And I don't know. There's just a common sense thing, and I think that's going to be a thread of the evening that's been really bugging me about gaming. Not even referring to crunch or bugs or anything like that. There's just tons of games that come out, games and software and stuff that happens in the gaming industry that are just how was a bunch of people sitting around a table with all the stats in front of them and they decided to do this one thing? Especially since nowadays, in our culture now, this would have made sense 10 years ago because the people doing that were kind of the first to do that with the technology they had. But technology has stifled. The games being made now are very much the same as the games being made 5 or 10 years ago. They just look better and they can be bigger. But at the core, they're the same. And all the people from back then who were playing them are now making them. So I don't understand why they're the ones making these choices. It's the same with Phil Spencer. Now, I've been a gamer for life. How do you, as a gamer for life, justify keeping gamers from playing games? How? You're not a gamer for life then. You're just not, because you are now cutting off other gamers from it. And what's even worse is, even if you look at this as capitalistic society, money grubbing, statistical, whatever, this is dumb. You can't show me the money value in not selling it in a storefront. Period.
I wonder if, I don't know, yeah, I can see where, it definitely can be lucrative, but at the same time, is it something to where let's just think, maybe it could be Sony is the one who's like, no, we don't want it, because maybe Microsoft wants too much of a cut. Maybe Microsoft thinks that it's just going to be such a huge, massive thing that it's like, oh yeah, they'll pay anything to get it on there. And at that point, they're only making like $3 on every single digital sale or something like that. I mean, it's
that's possible.
Sure.
We need information that says that, because the information that's been presented to us has been, fuck PlayStation, we're making it here. And that's the wrong move. You know what I mean? Like, if that's the choice, be like, hey, Sony's not going to let us put it on your console. You know what I mean? Or leak that information somewhere. Somehow get that out to us. But the way you're putting it out is you're just like giving Sony the finger, which is stupid, because Sony hands down wins the exclusive battle. And this is coming from a person who has no interest in any Sony exclusives, with the exception of, Horizon. None of them really look good to me. But hands down, on in the media, in the critics' eye, in the public eye, their exclusives are hands down better than Xbox, period. You don't beat them. You don't go up head-to-head with Last of Us. I don't like Last of Us. I think Last of Us is stupid. But you don't go head-to-head with that as an exclusive with fucking Halo and some Bethesda game that's going to be buggy as shit. You don't do that. You don't go head-to-head with the next God of War. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you fighting them on their level? Why are you, like, stepping in and battling them in the exact way they want you to battle them? And because you're going to lose. You're going to lose. Can I tell you something, Neil? The next Halo game should be on PlayStation. Should 100% be on PlayStation. They should 100% put Halo Infinite on PlayStation. They would make so much ungodly dollars on it. Plus, you get all the people who are like, wow, we're actually getting Halo on a PlayStation. You break down those walls, and then Sony looks terrible for holding their exclusives over their head. And no matter how good those exclusives are, they're still only selling them in one place. Whereas you are selling your shit everywhere. And I don't understand why I'm the only one who sees that.
The problem, I think, with that is the old argument that software sells hardware. If you don't have an exclusive, then why is somebody going to buy your hardware?
But that's what I'm saying. Xbox doesn't have any hardware. I mean, yeah, Series X is fine, but Series X is a Games Pass box. They sell it at a loss. They're not making money off hardware, so why are you trying to drive the hardware sales at all? Like, if you told me, like, going directly by that adage, software sells hardware, well, they're taking a $2 loss every time they sell a hardware. So why would you drive the sale of your hardware? Explain that to me. You don't want that. You want to drive the sale of Games Pass. That's what you want. You want to drive Games Pass. And so software needs to sell software at this point. Like that adage makes sense only from a standpoint of the hardware makes you money. The hardware doesn't make Xbox any money. So it doesn't make any sense to try and sell the hardware.
Well, I think in this instance, because Game Pass, it's undeniable at this point that it's the absolute best value out there in gaming.
Yeah.
You pay, like right now, it's $17 a month, and there's just games, all the games that I could ever want, need, or possibly even play. That is something that's new relatively new, I should say, that the other two big manufacturers haven't really figured out per se. Nintendo has their own thing for the most part that is like a virtual console though. It's not like
it's just like a way to play classic shit. It's not really
right. And it's honestly a consolation to those who didn't manage to get their hands on the mini consoles.
I mean, and the thing is those kind of things though, like, even more than the movie industry, like, Sony doesn't, like, it's not even just a service. It's a way of thinking. You know what I mean? Like, it's a it's a method to actually selling things that is different from what Sony and Nintendo are doing. And that's why Sony and Nintendo can't figure it out, because they've literally built themselves on doing the other thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of my biggest problems here is Games Pass, to me, is not just a cool streaming service. It's literally a way of thinking. It's a state of mind for a new way to present games to people that the other guys aren't doing. Why would you contradict that with exclusivity? You know? It seems to fly in the face of what they're trying to do, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Microsoft has made those moves, you know, prior with those. They seem to be like, oh yes, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to, you know, move things forward, this, that, and the other. And I think it was when they first started talking about the acquisition of Bethesda that it was when they kind of started to drop that line of, well, you know, maybe some of the stuff is going to be exclusive and some of it won't. Or they had mentioned, you know, like, oh, well, Xbox is going to be the best place to play, you know, this thing, be the superior version. And to kind of like bring it back around to the conversation as a whole, to what I had mentioned earlier, like, I can see if like this was later down the line and they had just said, hey, we're going to start developing this new IP after the acquisition, making it a Microsoft exclusive. At this point, I don't understand why it is, just because we have our proof of concept that they don't have to do that with Deathloop. Why it is that they are making it an exclusive? Are they thinking that that's just going to be such a big, huge thing that it's going to drive that?
Well, and I think with Deathloop, they already had a deal in the works with PlayStation before, you know, the sale went through, sort of thing. Because I know that Deathloop is timed, so it is going to come to Xbox. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This just really bothers me, man. This really bothers me. It seems like 2 steps back for Xbox, in my opinion. It just really does. And I want to say this right now. If you're a gamer, if you're a real gamer, like, you want gamers to play games, period. Like, this whole inviting, toxic, like, Xbox better than PlayStation better than Xbox, put that aside, man. If you're a gamer, if you're a true gamer, you want other gamers to play the games they want to play, period. And it shouldn't matter what system they have. It shouldn't matter where they are. So, like, I don't know how these guys can call themselves gamers and then restrict access to games to people. Like, I understand you got to make money, and I think I've pointed out quite a few ways that they would make more money if they didn't make it exclusive. But, just on a, like, if you're a gamer, you want other gamers to play games, period.
Dak, have you made a video about this before? It sounds like you may or may not have made a video about it.
I did do a terrible talk about exclusivity, didn't I?
You did? You did? Can people find that? Can people find that on the channel?
They can find that on the channel. We actually have a playlist for all the terrible talks. You can find some fine ones of Neil's own making, as well as some not so fine ones where I just rant about things.
I don't know. My last one got all hornswoggled from the audio issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It actually worked way better before when I had done that feature than it did on yours. I don't know why, but
I don't know.
In any case, I think we've discussed this at length. You want to move on?
Sure.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. So that brings us to our second talking point. This is a little impromptu, but it's something that I've noticed and is bothering me. And we touched a little bit on it in the last topic, and it's common sense in gaming industry. Again, I'm not talking about crunch, which is objectively bad. I'm not talking about bugs, which is a nightmare. I'm not talking about releasing it too early or delays or anything like that. I'm talking about these people sitting around a table making shitty decisions and with no excuse. So I'm going to give some examples. First example, Outriders. I like Outriders. I'm not trying to knock Outriders. It's a good game. The story's good, and it's fun. However, its endgame is a fucking nightmare. And the endgame is... You do these expeditions. They're timed expeditions. So you get, like, loot based on, like, bronze, silver, or gold. But because it's timed, you have to have high DPS builds. So it immediately cuts out any of your tank builds that you've made or anything like that. So it cuts your builds in half, which is terrible. And there's no other criteria for gaining loot in these expeditions other than the timed missions. To make matters worse, you thinking to yourself, well, I'm a tank, I can't really do the expeditions. I'll go back and replay story missions to get the loot that way. But the story missions have a level cap, so it stops being useful to go back and play them. You can't just rerun bosses in the main game. You have to do these expeditions to get the highest quality loot. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You have a bunch of people sitting around a table who have grown up with looter shooters and now are wanting to make a looter shooter, and they all sit there and they decide that this was a good idea to cut off that part of the game. Like, why? Why is that a decision that you've made? Why is a bunch of people who have been gamers their entire life, and like I said, there would be an excuse for this if they were the first ones doing this game, you know? But they're not. They've seen Destiny. They've seen games like shooters, looter shooters. Like, there's no reason for them to do this. You know, it's the same thing with some of the stuff with Borderlands and even State of Decay 2, which I love State of Decay 2. I absolutely love State of Decay 2. It's one of my top 5 all-time games of ever, which is why I still stream it to this day. However, you had a game about procedurally generated characters and getting them through surviving the zombie apocalypse. And then your first 2 DLCs for that, your first 2 major DLCs, the first one was a survival horde mode where you can't use any of the procedurally generated characters that are so unique to you. And then the second one is a story a story-based DLC with original characters that you have to play. You cannot use any of your procedural characters, and the map in it cannot be used in the normal game. How are those your first 2 DLCs? How? And I love Undead Labs. I pitch them all the time for game makers. This is dumb. I talked to a friend of the show, Jason. I talk to him all the time. He agreed with me on one thing. He actually even pointed it out. If they had just released a map every 6 months, it'd be one of the greatest zombie games ever. But instead, we got these 2 DLCs that are almost completely useless, except for extra little points you get in the normal base game. And you only have the 4 maps. Like, stuff like that is just frustrating. It seems everywhere in games. It's the same with this exclusivity, and it's the same with the Xbox GameStop, the Games Pass storefront. We were talking about this 2 weeks ago, I think, with the whole like Microsoft cutting costs to the Microsoft storefront. Well, and then we realized that Games Pass is a storefront itself. It actually isn't. What's really weird, because I did some research on this, because I realized that if I could buy all the games that I want just on Games Pass, I would just use Games Pass as my storefront, period. Like, I'd be done. I would probably stop using Steam and Epic and just keep them there. Games Pass only has games that are on Games Pass and games that were on Games Pass. They don't have any like new releases or anything. So like Biomutant's the next game I'm going to buy probably. You can't get that on Games Pass. Like, you can't pre-order that. There's no pre-orders on there. That makes me believe that what we were talking about was the way it was the first way, where there is another Microsoft storefront that you can buy games for and download to your computer, which that's just dumb. Like, that's common sense. Why isn't it all in Games Pass? I mean, Games Pass already has a storefront option, which means all you have to do is upload the option to purchase those games into Games Pass. Why are there 2 places to buy the games? That's just stupid. Like, there's just so many things in gaming right now where it's simple little things that are just common sense changes. I don't know. That's my rant on that. I know I've been talking for a long time. I think it's your turn to cut in there.
Well, I think it's all in how you look at the situation as a whole, because when you were just talking about how like you can buy the games that are on Game Pass / were on Game Pass,
Right.
You had said it's like, well, why are there two different storefronts? My mind immediately went to, well, like it would actually, I think, be more counterproductive for them to not have an option to buy those games. Just because, that's just another place that somebody can buy that stuff from. While, yes, it is dumb that the storefronts are fractured in the way that they are, why not just add that option? If people can download it, if they have Game Pass anyways, why not make it so that you can download it, purchase it, and download it if you don't have Game Pass?
Right.
So, like, looking at it from that way...
I guess I see that point. But, like, why not make all those games also available in Games Pass then,
Right. Like, and that's the thing. It's all in how you look at it. When you're talking about Outriders with the endgame loop, to me, that sounds more so like something that just wasn't completely fleshed out, because I feel like there's a lot of live service games that don't necessarily know how to make and keep the end game fresh for people outside of those who are like diehard hardcore.
But see, here's my problem here is that excuse doesn't work anymore, because the people who made Outriders are not people who are like new to the genre. They are people who have played games as service or shooter games. I mean, and Outriders isn't a games as service technically, but like people have played this game. People have played this game like looter shooters since the beginning. They know what a good looter shooter is and what they didn't like from original looter shooters, and yet somehow they didn't do it. What's even worse to me, man, and the common sense thing is like, I get like, okay, we had this idea of how expeditions would work as a timed thing, and that because the best fix would be making the expeditions about an average. It would be like, yeah, there's a timed gold, silver, bronze, but there's also like damage taken, gold, silver, bronze, damage done, gold, silver, bronze, yada, 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 and then you average out the medals for what medal you get. Then all the metas would work. They would all work because your tank, yeah, he's going to get shitty time, but he's not going to take any damage, and he's going to do a ton of damage, so he'll be fine. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you parse it out. My understanding, though, is like, okay, you had the expeditions in your head. You can't just put that in. But why make it? Why level cap? Like, you had to actively level cap the story. Why? Just not level cap the story missions and you'd be fine. You see what I'm saying? Like that, like that's the common sense part to me, is like you could have made it, I mean, I don't know how that would be fixed, but it would, for the most part, put a huge Band-Aid on it if you just made the story not have a level cap. So like it's that kind of stuff that, like, yeah, I understand that they screwed up with the expedition. It's so easy to fix the other half,
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some stuff out there, like, a perfect example for what you have been talking about with, like, stuff that's, like, a no-brainer sort of situation.
Right.
I've been waiting for the mythical, magical, the Metroid Prime trilogy to come to Switch. And I had seen an article the other day, and I didn't put this into my odds and ends. It was a week or so ago, that there was somebody who was either worked at Retro or worked with Nintendo, something along those lines. And they had said that the probability of that actually existing is slim to none because of how they have to implement the controls for the motion stuff. You can add motion controls in, but there's some games like Metroid Prime 3, because it's so heavily reliant on the motion controls, you can't take it out and have the game function. So after I read that, I was like, okay. So, like, up until this point, I had thought, it's like, duh, just port it over to the Switch. Why don't you just port it over to the Switch? You know, you did it for the the Wii and all that, this, that, and the other thing. It's easy money, blah, blah, blah. There's so many rumors out there about it. Why don't you just up and do it? There's that piece of information that I got from that. It's like, oh, well, maybe they physically can't do that. And that's why there's some things in games anymore that I don't ask like why they didn't do X, Y, and Z, because there's probably a reason why. Yeah. Now, in your instance, I think that it does sound like a design thing, but there are some things that sound like no-brainers, right? But they aren't necessarily. It's not that easy.
Okay, look, the not that easy part only goes so far for me, because I mean, I get that on that point, but like, you're still a bunch of people who know what people want, and they know what people don't like. So why would you make something they don't like? Even if it's harder to make the thing they want, make the thing they want, or make something else that they want. Like that, like, I can't necessarily give that as an excuse, at least in the Outriders thing. And in some other cases, Super Mario Party is another thing that like, you have Super Mario Party where you have this minigame mode in it, then you have another minigame mode, then you have a riverboat rafting thing, then you have another one where you like do like dancing, all of this stuff that you have to get like gems for to unlock characters and to complete the game and stuff. Whereas nobody going into Super Mario Party wants to play that. They want to play Super Mario Party. And the Super Mario Party mode, and I liked Super Mario Party, but it only has 4 maps. One of them unlockable, 4 boards, I guess is what it would be in this position. 3 of them right off the bat, and 1 unlockable. I would have given up any one of those modes to get another board or 2. Like, why? Why? That's a common sense thing. Why is there these weird, stupid adventure games in this thing that we don't need or want, when all we want to do is play the fucking game? Like, that kind of stuff is everywhere in gaming right now. Everywhere. It's just to the point where, like, I get kind of depressed about buying new games. Not just because of the bugs or the delays or whatever. I know that at some point I'm going to hit something where I'm like, how did people think this was a fucking good idea?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, just to circle back real quick, Mario Party does have a 5th map.
Where? How do you get it? Do you have to get all the stones?
It's like one of those, you have to like unlock everything. But there is a 5th map that unlocks after you do everything. But still,
that's cool. But you see what I'm saying, right? Like
whole ass levels,
right?
You know.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have a silly river rafting adventure game bullshit thing, or would you rather have another board to play? You know,
right?
Personally, I want the board.
At the same time, like, there's this idea. It's kind of like a meta thought process, I guess. So like, the guy that does Smash Brothers, Sakurai.
Okay.
Everyone always screams at him, put this character in, put that character in. Apparently all he ever hears is more Fire Emblem characters. But still, like, he gets yelled at constantly. Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? Why don't you just do this? And sure, yeah, you can go ahead and make a game that somebody wants, but you're going to, not be able to please everybody, because if you answered every single demand, desire that every individual had, you're going to be making a game literally forever. And 2, if you get a group of people who scream at somebody for this thing, and then, hey, that thing comes out, then that almost reinforces the somewhat toxic nature.
Yeah, I think there's a disconnect in what I'm trying to say and what you're thinking I'm saying. Because I'm not talking about like people demanding things and getting it. I'm talking about in the creation of the game.
Right.
Like Smash Brothers is a good game from start, you know? Like
right, but what I was trying to say is, like, it's very easy for us to say, just do this, just do that, just, why didn't you just do this instead? Hindsight's 2020, and sure, maybe looking back, they could have done something differently. Maybe they wanted to do something differently, but time didn't allow them, The people, like designers, programmers, everything are only working within what it is that they first can do, and second are being allowed to do by, the powers that be it management, shareholders, this, that, and the other thing. It's very easy, I feel, for us to say is like, well, why didn't you just do this, that, and the other thing with, features of a game, game modes, stuff like that. But maybe it wasn't their call necessarily to make. Now, I can see, us on the outside, of course, not being a part of that process. Sure, well, why don't you just, like somebody's, this was something that happened in my family at one point. It was, my vehicle wasn't doing so good, and I was constantly putting money into it, and a family member of mine said, well, why don't you just buy a new car? Yeah? Just like that, like just a snap of your fingers,
Right.
Maybe the things that we want, that we think are hard to implement. I mean, just look at something like Horrible Arena, some of the stuff that we pitch. If we were to actually sit down and think of how in the book we would go about making some of that stuff actually work.
Right. No, I see what you're saying, but we're not asking for the moon here. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not talking about things like making a system for scoring an expedition in Outriders more than one thing is not hard. I know it's not hard. It can't be hard because you have a system already keeping track of all those numbers. All you have to do is say, instead of just timing, also give it a score based on this number. That's not, you can't tell me that that's that hard. Like, I know enough about gaming to know that, like, if you were going to do X, you could have done Y in that condition. And, like, I see what you're saying to a degree, because I don't think they should just give in to demands post-launch either. I'm just talking about, like, if me, Zach, and a bunch of developers like me were sitting at a table designing a looter shooter, and we came up with the expedition thing, and it could only do time, technically. Like, if that was the restriction, we wouldn't do it because it's not good. Like, that's the kind of thing that bothers me, is if that's the excuse, if the excuse is, well, it's just too technically hard to keep track of more than one statistic in the expedition, which I can't imagine a world that's the truth. But if that's the reason, then don't put them in the game. Like, I think that's a common sense thing. Like there's no way that a bunch of people who played looter shooters sat around a table and looked at this expedition thing and level capping the story mode as well and thought people are going to love this. But apparently that happened. Or alternatively, in your scenario, they sat around a table and they were like, people aren't going to like this, but we should do it anyway, which is even dumber.
Right.
Like, that's even stupider. At that point, just don't put the expeditions in. Leave it to story mode and let people keep running that until you do the DLC, because then then at least you'll have all your metas until level 50. It'll be a much shorter game with no end game, but you won't immediately alienate half your players once they get to the end game. I mean, and we're using Outriders a lot as an example, but these other ones are the same as well too. And like the State of Decay one, I mean, you're telling me it's not easier to just make a map instead of make a map, make storyline characters, get new voice work, write a new story, have new mechanics for this mode that doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form with your game? Like, that's not technically less hard. Technically less hard would be just adding another feature and adding another map. And the fan base would have loved that. Like, it's that kind of stuff that I'm talking about, where it isn't just necessarily like, oh, the technology isn't there, or, oh, technically it doesn't make sense, where all the factors that you can see point to why, but they did X.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I've always looked at whenever a game comes out, I think it's just how I've looked at them and enjoyed them. It's that when I am presented, like, this is our finished product, this is what we want you to see, do, play, anything like that, I will have criticisms of, I don't like X, I don't like Y, but I've never really sat and played a game and like armchair coached it, like, oh, well, they should have done this instead of that, or anything like that. And I don't know, maybe it's just a symptom of how I look at games and how I've played them, but, like, don't get me wrong, there's stuff that I think is dumb and stupid, like that Kingdom Hearts Remind DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3, where they basically sell you...
I feel like I've heard you armchair coach games before.
Well, there's a
You're
difference
saying you
between...
didn't, but I straight up remember you saying they shouldn't have done this, or this was dumb, or...
Well, there's a difference between leveling a criticism, saying this didn't work, I don't like this, this, that, and the other thing. It's a different thing entirely for me if, like, oh, well, they should have just done X, Y, and Z instead. Like that Remind DLC, half of it, it was literally you paid $30 for the end of the story again. So, like, yeah.
But see, in that case, I almost understand that choice better than some of the other ones, because in that specific instance, they made that choice to make more money, and it was a purely financial decision. Whereas the Outriders one, the State of Decay one, didn't make them any more money. Like the Super Mario Party one didn't make them any more money. It was just a weird, stupid decision that they made, and like, at least with the Remind, it's like, well, they're fleecing people out of money. It's shitty, and I don't like it, but that's what they're doing.
Right.
Whereas the other ones are kind of like, that didn't make them any money. That just made people madder. I don't know.
That's like...
I think we're in an impasse at this point,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Well,
the only other thing that I was going to say was that I just thought of is, like, the one that the one gripe that I have with Breath of the Wild is the breakable weapons.
Right.
I never once was like, oh, they should have, done this instead. I just, like, I hate it. It kind of sucks. I mean, in the end, I actually kind of grew to like it a little bit, but that's a side point.
That is a 100% good example, though, of a common sense decision that was stupid. Like, to make weapons break and never have to be able to, like, fix them or get them back, or to make weapons so disposable was a bad decision. I love Breath of the Wild. It was a bad decision. With no way to temper it or to fix it or to level up weapons or nothing. It was a bad decision. Right. I don't think that was a good decision. I think that's a common sense thing where a bunch of people sat around a table and was like, this is a good idea, and it's very clearly not a good idea. But we need to move on. We're at 58 minutes. We got to get to odds and ends. So we will call this one a draw, I suppose.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to odds and ends. Our final segment before Horrible Arena. Basically, we just collect certain gaming news things that don't deserve a full talking point, and we just want to tell you guys about it, maybe riff about it, maybe just make a joke or two. And we put them here in odds and ends. I've got 3, Neil's got 3, so I'm going to go ahead and take the initiative and go first.
Alrighty.
I'm going to go, and these are all ones that might be a little bit dated because I said them last week and then it didn't get on. But just so you guys know, if when playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, you're just thinking to yourself, man, this Mako handles too good. Well, news. You can change it back to the original handling if you want. If you want to go back, if you want to put in the feature that is widely known as the worst thing about the original Mass Effect, you can play it that way.
Yeah, I didn't hate it that much.
I didn't necessarily hate it either. I'm just saying that, like, widely, anything bad you heard about the first Mass Effect, it was like anybody who was talking about the first Mass Effect, it was always like, man, that game's great, but the Mako, you know what I mean? So, like, that was the thing that everybody hated. They made the driving better, but for some reason they decided to put the option in that you can still have the shitty driving for some reason.
Did you pick it up, by the way?
I did not pick it up. Have you picked it up, sir?
Yeah, we got it. I
Really?
myself haven't played it, but Kayla did install it the other day and got 5 minutes in, and it crashed. So
that's fun stuff. That's not a good start.
She literally finished character creation in the first one and got out of that whole segment, and she went to go save, and it was like, nope, and it just froze in the save, crashed out.
That's terrible.
So, yeah,
So
good
fun.
start. I haven't heard anything about that since, so I don't know, but yeah, that's how it started.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it next week then. I do have 5 things coming out. Well, if you're listening to this coming out today on the channel, about what we want from the next Mass Effect game.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting because everybody gave me really weird suggestions that I had to somehow parse into actual suggestions. So it was very strange. Very strange. Everybody was very conceptual about their suggestions.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do this. But yeah. So, all right. So your first one.
So,
right?
yeah, it is with a very heavy heart that I inform you and all others listening that Skull and Bones has been delayed into late 2022.
What? Well, I had not heard that. I 100% hadn't heard that. That's hilarious.
Oh, this game is never coming out. What the hell? What was it, 2014?
It wasn't
That it was
2014.
announced?
It wasn't that old. It wasn't
16.
that old.
It's like 16 or 17.
Yeah, 16 or 17.
Oh
It's been a
my
while.
god. So now late 2022, so essentially 2023 is the new date.
Why do they keep delaying it by a year? Like, has this thing just been almost done for like 3 years? Like, is my question, like, because they only ever delay it for like 1 year, and I'm like, why? Like, delay it for 3 years? Like, I feel like this game has been like done, and just everybody's been on vacation.
I wonder at this point too when it is that they decide that it's just not going to be worth it, because what is Skull and Bones just going to be that big of a thing that people are going to be like, man, just everyone go buy it, and they're going to recoup all these development costs for the literal years and years that they've been in development on this.
I don't know. I will say I give Ubisoft a lot of leeway when it comes to competitive multiplayer games. They even their failures, they somehow turn around into successes. They do a really good job with that. So I'm still interested to see what this is going to be. I really am. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't know what they're doing with it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All right. So my next one is right back on Ubisoft. Might as well segue. So they released this big post 2 weeks ago from Red Storm, the guys who work on Division. They actually said that Division 2 sold more is super successful. It's one of their highest selling games. Same with Division. They make a lot of money off of it, which is weird because that's actually counter to intelligence we received last year or the year before, where it said like it didn't do so good at release, you know. But I guess it's doing good. So they are going to be releasing a game called Division Heartland, which is going to be free to play. I know that's a word that a lot of people go, oh no, but I don't know. I really like Division 2. I really like Division. My biggest regret is I couldn't get more people to play it with me. So I couldn't stay in it. But the shooting is really good. The gameplay is really good. So I'm kind of excited to see what a free-to-play version of that game is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Free-to-play doesn't necessarily bother me
No.
as long as it's not, like, overbearing.
Right.
A free-to-play game is fine as long as, it is playable and, like, if you put some money into it, it's not, like, something that gets you by for, like, 2 days or something along those lines.
What's crazy to me is they've said that this is coming out later this year, like around holiday, and we didn't even know it existed, which surprises me, especially with Ubisoft that loves to leak everything. Like that, we had no idea there was another Division game coming until 6 months before its release.
Right?
Like they're already like they've got like a closed beta people are signing up for, which is like I've never even seen a screenshot from this game.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that to me is kind of an achievement in itself, I think.
Yeah. So my next one, Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, a D&D action adventure game that's going to be coming out, is actually going to be launching on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So get another game coming out and just right on Game Pass, and something that's not just like a little indie thing. It's like an actual Dungeons and Dragons licensed game. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting.
I mean, hey, Outriders came right into Games Pass, and that wasn't a little
Outriders
thing.
even.
Yeah, like Games Pass is starting to really bring in some big boys. I don't have a third one after all. I forgot that one was a dated one, so I marked that off. So I don't actually have a third one.
All right, well, I got one more, and it's kind of a long one anyway.
Did you hear when Dark Alliance is actually coming out?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm just wondering.
No, I think it was sometime this year, but I can't say for certain. That's something that I would have to Google.
Okay.
So, my last one, Sears. Sears is just as bad as Scalpers at this point when it comes to the PlayStation 5.
Really?
They put out a $1,149.99 bundle. This bundle includes Madden 21 and some accessories and the disc drive version of the PS5 console. Unfortunately for anyone buying the bundle, the copy of Madden is the PlayStation 4 version and not the PlayStation 5 version. And the accessories that come with it are only worth about $35, consisting of thumbstick caps, a charger for the controller, and a silicone cover for the controller with a cheap unbranded headset. What is also worse is they frame the image of this bundle with a controller on there, making it seem like it comes with an extra controller. It is only showing you the controller that comes in the box. So, for a console that goes for $500, the game, let's say, is $60, and the bundles, the bundled accessories, you're probably looking at a grand total of actually somewhere around $650 at the extreme high end. And Sears is selling this bundle for essentially $1,200. So it has begun. Get ready, kids. You're going to have to shell out even more money for these consoles as this chip shortage rages on that we don't even know when it's going to be able to figure out. This here, though, like, when I hear about, like, the video cards and stuff like that, like, oh, charging, like, an extra $50 to $100 on MSRP, you know, at this point, comparing it to scalper prices, it's not that bad, and given the situation with everything, don't think it's necessarily that bad. And you have Sears literally trying to double their money for nothing. Like, big box stores like that, you don't need any more money like this. This is predatory. This is just jumping on the bandwagon any way that they seem that they can do it. And people are buying this bundle. People are buying this bundle because they are so absolutely desperate. So, you know, I don't know who's worse. The people who are, you know, buying this for this ludicrous amount of money, or those who are buying the, you know, or the Sears for selling it at that price. I mean, you're limited to what you can do at this point to get a hold of the stuff that you need. I've already had a conversation with you either last week or between segments that I've essentially resigned myself that I'm going to have to spend $1,000 on a 3060.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
The thing is what people don't understand, we're just a gaming podcast, but what people don't understand is this is going to start affecting things that aren't gaming. These chips goes into cars. These chip goes into your TVs and your normal equipment that people buy. Like, this is gonna start affecting the United States on a much deeper level. I mean, even, you know, Phil Billy, something you guys might not know about Phil Billy is, you know, he's a car guy. He works in cars. That's what his day job is. And he is very knowledgeable about it. And he's even pointed out that, like, they have a hard time finding some equipment for them because all cars are on computers now. Like, this chip shortage is affecting way more than gaming anymore. And, I'm worried about that. And as far as your graphics card, I straight up said to you, I was like, we're still in the early days. Like, this is going to go higher. Like you're going to be paying $2,000 for it next year. You know, we're not anywhere near it being over, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I basically resigned myself to that. And like you had said with the chip shortage, just to broaden out the conversation about it a little bit more, Ford actually, I think it's the F-150s, the 2021 F-150s that they had been making for a while, they've just made them without their computers. So at the factories now, they have fully manufactured trucks that can't run. They just need those computers in.
Right.
And they're just taking up space, you know, it, like you had mentioned, washer dryers, literally every single piece of technology runs on these silicone chips.
Yep.
And right now they're like expanding out. I heard something about them going into 2 nanometer here soon, but even still, that's not going to make a difference one way or another if we don't have those silicone wafers being produced to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. Since I don't have a third one, I do just want to say really quickly a game I'm super excited about, Biomutant. I've got a lot of hope for this game, Neil. It looks really fun.
I finally, when we picked up our copy of the Mass Effect collection, they were showing it in GameStop on one of the TVs there, and I was watching it a little bit. That's the first that I had seen of the game, and it does look interesting.
Looks really cool, man. It looks really cool. It's got a cool character creation, and I love the weapons. Did that video show you any of the crafting?
It mentioned the crafting. It really only showed a character running around looting through stuff, and like there's like the radiation zones and stuff like that. They kind of talked about that a little bit, and that's all I really picked up from it.
Well, like most game crafting like that, they have like you collect a certain number of scrap or metal or something and something else, and then you turn those numbers into a gun, right? Or a thing. In this, you'll like collect a handle, you'll collect a chamber, and you'll collect a barrel, and you can put them together any way you want to make a completely new gun. Like, and each like section of like a gun or section of a melee weapon gives different bonuses. So like you can find like an umbrella handle and like the head of a meat cleaver and put them together. It's a new melee weapon, you know, stuff like that. It just looks so much fun and so different.
Is this game coming out?
It is coming out on my daughter's birthday, May 25th. And I am very much hoping that somebody does an early review, just because I'm nervous to buy anything new nowadays. But yeah, I'm planning on getting it. I already put some funds aside, and I'm probably going to review it for the channel.
Alrighty.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it for odds and ends. We can head into our horrible arena if you want.
Sure.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to the end of the show and the moment you've all been waiting for, the horrible arena. What is the horrible arena if you have never watched or listened? Well, first of all, please watch or listen more. But me and Neil, we're going to pitch you guys a game. We're going to pitch you guys a game based on pre-existing criteria that we take turns picking, or a guest chooses if we have one. The last time you guys didn't get to hear what we picked, but we picked Disney licensed property, and it cannot be Star Wars or Marvel. It has to be baseline Disney. So what we're going to do, we're going to pitch you the developer of the game. We're going to pitch you what the game is as far as the elevator pitch. And then you guys get to go to all the places and decide which one you would spend your hard-earned money on if you had to choose. And then we decide next week who won. But the Quantum Coin has decided who gets to go first. And that person is me. So here we go. My game is Project High Bloods. All right, so this is a crazy one. It's a weird one. First of all, there's women representation in the game, but we really haven't had a woman-only, like, straight-up-faced game that isn't, like, hyper-violent, like Tomb Raider or something. So I thought, really, this would be a cool chance to do that. I also want to take something in Disney that gets a lot of controversy for being weirdly designed in kind of weird, inappropriate ways and make it better. So, here's what High Bloods is. High Bloods starts with you get to pick your favorite Disney princess of the following ones: Moana, Elsa, Meredith from Brave, whatever, from Brave, Snow White, or Mulan. Okay? Those are your big... Oh, and Jasmine. No, not Jasmine. Just those five. Sorry. Notes are a little bit wrong. I scratched some names out. You get to pick those five. One of those five. Whoever your favorite is. And then you get powers. This game takes place in third person as that character. And what it does is it picks up that character's story right after the first movie. So, right after the first movie, whatever that first movie was about, that's where it picks up. Now, the overall story, though, is Snow White, actually, her movie takes place before everybody else's. Her movie, all right, has the normal ending, but we find out in this post-storyline that Doc is actually a goblin. I mean, it's the only thing that a gnome, which is blood feuding with the dwarves. He's been hiding among them, and he's totally evil. He actually figures out about the mirror that can tell the future, and he figures out all the different endings for all the different stories. He actually manages to get a story to the biggest baddie in Disney princess lore, and that is Maleficent. Maleficent then uses that information to actually defeat Prince Charming and win, but she's not done there. She's got to conquer the world, so she starts spreading her evil all over the place. That forces Snow White, who realizes this after all the other dwarves are killed by Doc and Doc gets away, to start to try and find others like her with powers. Her powers are animal control. Moana, water control. Elsa, ice control. Brave, she's got the cool archer Hawkeye powers. Mulan, come on, she's a super sword fighter. So she finds them in each of their different areas. You get a small open world that you can kind of jump through each different area. You get the Polynesian Islands. You get the Enchanted Forest for Snow White. You get I think it's Scottish Highlands for Merida. You know, all of those things. And there'll be a small open world that you can travel. There'll be plenty of side quests. And the way you loot, you don't actually earn equipment. You actually unlock abilities for each one of the princesses. And then you tag each 5 different abilities for each different princess that you have. You can also set them up with however many you have on AI, or your friends can join in by playing other different princesses. Then you battle through saving and fighting Maleficent's forces and saving each one of these lands in kind of basically what everybody's asked for since Frozen and Moana, the Disney Princess Avengers. That's basically what this game is going to be. And then you will go through trying to save everything and stop the corruption. What's even more interesting is after you defeat the game, there's plenty of corruption left behind, and the game will start to procedurally generate threats. Threats that come from Doc, who you never got to find. So Doc becomes the major bad guy of it, and you have to slowly battle different villains that pop up over time in different areas. You can travel between each of these different areas and do these side quests to unlock more abilities and to fight back corruption, to just constantly keep kind of patrolling and fighting for your city or your area. So that's my concept. That's Project High Bloods. Neil, it's up to you.
All right. So real quick, are we doing the question now or after we both do our pitches?
We do the question after we both do our pitches. So you pitch, then you get to ask me a question about mine. Then I get to ask a question about yours.
This is only the second time we've done this, so I couldn't remember the order in which it went. All right. So
no, wait. I'm sorry. I get to ask you a question first, and you get to ask me a question. It's taking turns, basically. So yeah. I go, you go. I go, you go.
All right. So my project is called Project Derezzed, and it's going to be done by EA. It is the year 1985, and Encom has just unveiled its newest product, a VR game console that can beam a video signal directly onto the user's eyes using lasers, letting them experience virtual reality worlds the likes of which no one has ever seen before. However, not all is as it seems. 3 years prior, taking place in the original Tron movie, Kevin Flynn was sucked into the digital computer world and dispatched the Master Control Program, or MCP, and freed the system. Flynn did not know that the MCP had a backup redundancy that reinstalled itself after deletion, and figured that it could use the existing experimental laser tech it used the first time to bring Flynn in at Encom to bring him back to get his revenge upon him. Using its own manipulative code, it altered the framework and the design of the laser, giving the MCP a backdoor and control over the laser, allowing the MCP to drag Flynn back to the computer world. The console launches and millions get their hands on it, including Flynn, the now CEO of Encom. Flynn, along with millions of others, all turn the console on, and given the MCP has no way of knowing who it is that's turning the console on when it happens, automatically sends that same derezzing signal throughout every single console at the same time, dragging Flynn along with countless other helpless individuals to the computer world. Project Derezzed is a game of 2 parts, a single-player open-world adventure and online competitive multiplayer. In the single-player part of the game, you control your own custom-created character to seek help from Tron to defeat the MCP and release everyone from the system, including Flynn. The game would be fairly linear in nature, but would have many optional quests available in the world. While you could very well walk anywhere you want, this is a Tron game, so you absolutely get access to a light cycle that you can just use whenever you want, almost like summoning Epona in Breath of and Legend of Zelda or something. And of course, with a light cycle, that also means light cycle battles. However, they will occur either scripted in the open world or out and about, where the MCP's programs will try to outmaneuver you and destroy you and your cycle, leaving you with the option to either fight them or run away. Combat would be primarily done via disc, as it does in the movies. However, the light cycle baton can also double as a beam sword for more hand-to-hand combat, as well as the ability to pick up blasters from fallen enemies. Destroying enemies also leaves bits and code strings. The bits will function as currency within the game, so you can buy and sell things, and the code string will function as material for a crafting system, allowing you to equip code to either yourself or your weapons to change attributes or even gain enemy abilities or create items adding a loot cycle to the game. And of course, the game has its online section as well. You could take your own custom online character into the arena and combat other players using your gear and code that you have acquired thus far. There's the standard light cycle arena with a traditional light cycle combat. Disc battle arena that pits 2 players against each other to see who is the better disc battler. There's also a survival mode akin to a battle royale with a shrinking firewall forcing players together. There would also be a traditional multiplayer arena where teams of 4 can partake in objective-based games or straight-up deathmatch gameplay, allowing the player to have different loadouts or backups of gear and their own custom weapons, allowing for customization and the ability to tackle different types of game modes, be it however they see fit. So that is my game. I don't think I said who is going to do it. It's EA, but that's my project, Project Derezed.
You actually did say EA. I forgot to say a company name on mine. Yeah, you did.
That's weird.
Yeah, you 100% did. I forgot to say a company name on mine. Mine would be Insomniac Games.
Oh, okay.
So my question, and
all right,
God, I hope that I didn't miss this somewhere in your pitch, because that would make me very sad. But you had said this is a game of 2 parts with the multiplayer and the single player.
Yes.
Does playing the multiplayer have a direct influence on the single player and or vice versa? Or are
yes,
they just
it
like...
would have to. No, you got one. You got one.
Yay! Yay!
I feel
fucked
like
up so much last time. I was really like, God, don't screw it up this time.
Yeah, no, it absolutely would have to. Because if you were to take your own stuff into this online arena, somewhat like you would do in Destiny, in what's that one verse mode they have in Destiny?
The Crucible.
The Crucible. Like that. You can't just like... It would be more just like a standard... You would have no agency over your character and what it is that you're doing. Because if you're going to segment those 2 parts off, but keep the same systems, it wouldn't make much sense, I don't think.
Okay.
Because they would be 2 independent things, and at that point would become 2 independent games. Now, I would say, of course, if you do bring your stuff from single player, there would be some sort of balancing that may have to occur for competitive multiplayer.
So the game itself is dependent on, like, the direct relation is what you have in the single is what you can use in the multi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's not like a weird combat, like it's not like Mass Effect where you're like fighting back enemies or something like that.
No. Yeah, it's not like, pick up weapons on the map. Like you could do that potentially in like a deathmatch mode, but it would be designed specifically for that. If you booted up this game and went straight into multiplayer, you would get like, baby's first loadout, which is like, like a pistol or whatever,
Gotcha.
Bare bones stuff.
Okay, cool. Your question, sir.
All right. So your question for you, I noticed like the ones that the princesses that you chose for your game all were based around those who have some sort of combat ability, but
yes.
You leave out ones like Belle, Sleeping Beauty, some along those lines. Do you have a place for them?
Okay, well, I want a robust DLC to be kind of like Marvel's Avengers, where they're adding characters and locations based on those characters as time goes on with each DLC release. So you'd get the 5 normal ones for the Maleficent storyline, and then there would be a new storyline that maybe adds 1 or 2. I do have places for them other than Sleeping Beauty. Obviously, Maleficent won, so Sleeping Beauty is out of the story, basically. However, I do see Belle as a academic. She could use powers such as pinpointing weaknesses or super critical attacks, stuff like that, reading books and other things like that. So yes, I do have places for the other princesses, the Tangled character, I mean, she's kind of got a superpower with her hair when you really think about it. She can heal things with it. But I do have places for the other princesses, but they would slowly be added through DLC. And basically what I'd want to do is each one of the princesses that are added, their powers would be kind of creative exaggerations of their characters from the original movies.
Okay.
Is how that would work, because they would have to have a power set to fit into the game in some way, shape, or form. But Belle was a hyper academic who read books constantly, so she would be a character who is used as kind of a brain, like an oracle type, or even like a Batman type character who just knows everything ahead of time, you know.
Well, I have to say, if Ariel is not DLC and her ability set does not involve her literally throwing fish at people, I will not buy your game, sir.
I actually had Ariel in my original pitch because I had Ursula as one of the main bad guys, but I couldn't figure out, because the way the timing is that every one of the princesses' stories is happening at the same time and ending at the same time. So this is the end of everybody's story is kind of the same kind of ending of the story. It's just Sleeping Beauty's ends poorly, and Snow White's ends badly afterwards. So the idea behind it is, so I actually did have Ariel. It's just I couldn't figure out a way to get Ursula in it without her being dead, basically. So. But Ariel would be great. She's an Aquaman character, man. And you'd love to see Atlantis, so that would be an awesome DLC storyline, especially if we put out there that her abilities are Sonic-based, because it was all about singing with her, and she can switch back and forth between mermaid mode. I think that would be really cool.
Yes.
So, there you go. That's my answer.
Alrighty.
All right, so I guess I got to pick subject matter for the next one, right?
Yes.
Oh, man. I did not put thought into this, sir. I did not put thought into this.
It's starting to get hard. It's starting to get hard, I think.
It's fun, though. I'm still having a lot of fun with the segment, honestly. And sometimes the hard ones give you the best ideas.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say a game based around martial arts. That's going to be my subject matter. A game based around martial arts of some sort. It can be a fighting game. It can be a brawler. It can be whatever. But just a game based around martial arts.
Right.
Nice and easy. Gives you a lot of openings.
I don't know. That's not really within my wheelhouse, so it's gonna be.
Says a guy who plays Street Fighter like it's going out of style. You realize they do martial arts in that game, right?
Yeah, but I can't just bitch Street Fighter. That's the thing.
That would be great if you came in this and it's like, yeah, my game's going to be done by Capcom. It's going to be a game with martial arts fighters. There'll be one guy who's named Bayou, and he's got a big rivalry with Ben, and just rhyme all the characters' names. I'm going to
call it Alley Brawler.
It's like the knockoff version of Street Fighter.
The Street Fighter that you buy at Aldi.
All right. Well, we will be right back to tell you all the places you can vote.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. That brings us to the end of the show and the same self-promotion that comes with it. And we need to wrap this thing up because we have gone late. Neil, you got anything special you want to plug today?
So we managed to finally record, I guess is what you would call it, some Halo Infinite Road. Oh, man. Did you, to not give anything away and just ask very vaguely, did you keep that first original episode as everything occurred?
I don't know what exactly you mean by that, but yes, the original episode we recorded is there. All the way till the end where your computer decided to start on fire. And then the second episode picks up after we got back to where we were.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was.
And I have not edited them yet because it's going to be a nightmare to edit them, but I have not edited them.
Very, very fun story. So anybody who's played the Halo Infinite War with us or anything that has heard me talk about any of this stuff, my laptop has been overheating like crazy. Anytime we've been playing any of the Halo stuff, and like it's not an older laptop. It's okay. It's got a 1660 in it, but like I have all the game visual settings turned down to low and everything like that, but I have it connected to a monitor. And I was wondering why it is that the PC couldn't keep up with it. Well, after some looking around, I found out that even though I have my video, like my display quality is turned all the way down low in the game, it is trying to match the refresh rate of my monitor. So we're trying to hit 360 frames a second, or 240 or 360, one of the two, for Halo on this not the greatest gaming laptop. So hopefully that's fixed going forward. But
I gotta be honest, I'm impressed your gaming laptop did as much as it did.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Every time, like everything's turned all the way low. FOV draw, like the draw distance is like stupid low. I'm like, I don't know what is happening here. And then I see the conflicting settings and realize what the issue is.
Your poor laptop is like, what are you doing to me, man?
I know.
I can't do this.
Yeah. Well, it's got to last me until I can finish out this build. So hopefully moving forward, that won't be an issue anymore. Yay. But if it is, we have workarounds.
Yes. Well, we have 2 episodes coming up, and they will be premiering for real this Thursday. So there you go. As far as me, OMGW is unfortunately at an end for now until we decide to start working on it again, which will be probably soon because I cannot. But everything else, I've got 5 things coming back, which is wonderful. Please check that out. Outriders 330 is awesome right now. The last episode me and Philbilly did was a lot of fun. I have a great story about a Bronco in it. Other than that, you guys can check us out on Facebook at OhManGamingDH, on Twitter at OhManGaming9. You can join our Discord. Links in the description below. I stream usually twice a week, so check those out. And as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. We'll see you guys next week. Alley Fighter's amazing. Like that's the winner. Like everything's like lower budget version of the original. Like Ryu is a guy who kind of trained in martial arts.
Just watched a bunch of movies. He just watched a bunch of martial arts movies, and he just like thinks that he can do it.
Right.
And you know what? No, you are now the main character of my game.
Every character in the game has a little bit of a gut. Like no one has abs. They all have some sort of like dad bod. That would be the best. And instead of World Warriors, it's just like streets in one city. The in between fight mode, you just see him walk walk around to the next alley. And all the backgrounds are just the original stages but painted on the wall.
Right.
I can't get enough of this idea in my head. Like this is amazing to me. This is amazing to me. It's amazing to me.